It's the SDG podcast. I'm Kyle Bacher here in the SDG virtual studio. And I'm here with the voice of reason, Peter Lawrence and Super Chad Juttner. It's December 4th, 2020, and we're about to be schooled in quality assurance by our special guests and quality assurance experts, Jess Herdegen and Eddy Hegland. And welcome. It's
Hi.
good to have you here.
Thanks.
What is quality? Jess, you want to answer that, or Eddy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Quality is not just about quality development, code. It's not just about that. It's about quality product, quality software, quality application. It's about the quality mindset, ensuring that everyone within that team and the organization is looking at quality within the product and the project. Anything else you want to add to that, Eddy?
Yeah, probably add that quality is different in every company. Mm-hmm. Some companies, if they're like medical device, they're very, very stringent on quality, where you have someone that may be more creative, very lax on quality. So there's a big spectrum there. So we try to customize everything to what our client needs and wants. And that seems to have been very successful for us.
Mm-hmm. I do want to point out that I don't know if you've noticed, we're only using the word quality. In the past, in history, QA is the term that you hear everywhere, right? QA. We need QA. We want QA. When's QA going to be done? We've taken the A out of it, and now it's just quality.
Now it's just quality. There's no assurance anymore.
It used to be quality assurance, but now it's quality assistance.
Yeah,
is what the QA. The QA people out there, that if you listen to them at seminars, it's changed a little bit through Agile.
Yeah.
From Waterfall.
QA tends to be a person, and we're moving away from it being a person, and it's a team focus. It's an organization focus. It's a product focus. So that's why we are moving away from the QA term and just using quality, and ensuring that we're instilling that mindset
That makes a lot of sense, because if your developers don't care about quality, it really shows. Even if QA has to throw something back, even if quality has to throw something back 10 or 12 times, that really doesn't make anybody happy, right? It's much better if it comes through quality all the way through at the start to the finish.
Yeah, even from a leader perspective, the dev manager, the director, ensuring that quality, the product owner, ensuring that quality is at that level is also important from the start. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So on a project, I've worked many projects over the years, and it seemed that role of a QA, the person of a QA, was kind of glossed over. It was kind of that first thing to get dropped. Mm-hmm. And then that responsibility kind of moved to the developers to QA their own stuff, which
shift left is a very big.
You kind of broke up there, Jess. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, shift left is a very big term right now, where they're shifting that quality focus to the beginning, where the developers are now doing quality.
And should developers be doing quality?
Yeah, absolutely. With a quality expert to help guide that.
Okay. Now I'll nod yes.
Yeah, and I'll just add that when I was in projects that, shall we say, didn't have a lot of respect for quality or QA, it was always, well, we can pull anybody off the street and they can do the testing. And testing is about 10 or 15% of what we do. Having a seat at the table in the beginning when we first start talking about stuff and planning, even before we're writing stories to, what we're going to do and what sprints, it's really important to have quality at the table, because we have a different mindset. We think a little different, but that's our strength that we bring to the team to help. And I think that's important. And I think it's gotten to the point now where they've realized that in a lot of places. And they do bring the quality people to the beginning of the processes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And to go back to like, should developers be conducting quality? You know, developers have a passion for solving complex coding issues and coming up with solutions to problems by coding and development, right? That's their passion. You have quality experts who have a passion for quality, making sure that they're all those random errors that you could potentially have, or ensuring that this joint is added to the code or whatever it may be. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to ensure that developers can continue with their passion of coding, and quality experts continue with their passion of quality, and have them work together in a way that the quality expert provides thought leadership and analysis of their code and provides that quality up front and not just at the end.
So how technical does a quality expert need to be?
You can have anyone from super technical, who is a developer at some point, who knows automation now, who is able to code, to somebody who's been manually testing for 27 years, and they have that quality mindset. It's really about that quality mindset is what is driving our solution.
I will say a big part as a developer is sort of, I'm more concerned about the happy path, or getting the right answer at the end from the variables that I put in, not necessarily what everybody will put in, right? So that's where having somebody with a quality mindset coming afterwards and trying to do the things that I can't even imagine someone doing out to my application, but will come through and make it a better product, because they'll try things that I didn't even imagine that someone would do.
You mean using it wrong?
Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah, absolutely. Why would you do that? Why would you click there?
I wouldn't say you're using it wrong. You're using it differently.
Yes.
So I have a little trick that I learned when I went through testing certification stuff, where it's called an equivalency chart, where on one side you put, okay, if I'm testing this, these things should work, but you have the other side, these things shouldn't work. And that gives you like 7 quick scenarios to test, because you can think of things really quick, if it's only alphanumeric, or if it's only numeric, or if no special characters, or if there's a range of 32 to 120 can work, but nothing else. Some of those kind of things, and boom, you've got a whole bunch of scenarios in just a real short time. So
you'll go and try to use something wrong deliberately.
Yeah, and that's the biggest things when I work with developers, is like Peter said, is happy path. Oh, I coded this, I got it to work, it's done.
I'm happy.
And yeah, and so that's the biggest thing when I work with developers, to kind of get them to understand how I think about stuff, and that the one path isn't the only path, and to start looking at some negative tests to make sure, do they get an error, or if they do this, so they know what happened, or does it just kind of crash or give them a page that doesn't make any sense?
That last bit is huge. My last big project where I came from, we didn't do that. And so we had quality at the end, which is what Jess was talking about, the 10 to 15%. We had kind of pulled somebody off the street, and he was doing that. He was doing that exact same thing. And it makes a lot more sense to have somebody like Eddy and Jess and the quality team, in the design meetings, in everything else, asking those questions early and up front. I was going to ask, does with quality and that role, Are we also, like, Eddy, do you also ask security questions too, like vulnerability type questions? The classic XKCD cartoon where the mom calls, or the school calls the mom and said, is your son really named Drop Table, where table name equals grades?
Little Timmy Drop Tables, you bet.
Yeah, little Timmy Tables.
Yeah, I'll ask about like SQL and injection, some different things like that. But a lot of times now what I'm finding is that the IT department will have a security area that they can run special tools to check on security, which is really nice because that gives you that other layer of quality and security that's added into the system, which is nice. And some of the tools don't allow people to do certain things with their code. It'll tell you that your code is at risk, so the developers actually have tools that will help them with that kind of stuff too, to make sure that their code is stronger and more secure.
Yeah, this is also a great segue into the SDG quality solution, because our quality solution doesn't just look at unit tests or integration tests. We look at everything from end to end, from unit to component to user acceptance to performance, load, security. We do an assessment and we look at everything within your organization and identify the highest risk areas for your team and work with your team to identify what maturity levels you're at. Are you at a maturity level 1 and you want to go to a 3, or are you at a 2 and you want to go to a 4? Where are you? And then where do you want to go? Your current state and your future state. So that's one of the first things we do is we don't just go in there assuming that you automatically have security testing. That's not what we do. We go in there and we ask these questions, we document them, and we ensure we understand what your definition of quality is and where you want to go. That's like the biggest thing. And we all do this based on Agile principles. We use the Agile testing quadrant. We use the testing maturity model. All of that is industry standard. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're just going to continue to use what's industry standard and ensure that everything's documented so that we are understanding your definition of success.
So you bring in a whole process and toolkit at the beginning that's already been developed. You're not having to scramble and wing it and do that on the fly when you get there.
No.
Peter will know too that I'll have a spreadsheet available to me. That's right. I like using spreadsheets, and we actually have one that we've covered most of the questions that we would normally ask in the industry, and then we also customize that for each that pop up that are special for a customer. So again, that's customizing the quality to the customer. What level are they at? What level do they want to be at?
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what is a 1 versus a 2? What does it take to go from a 1 to a 2? Is that everybody's different, or?
No, the testing maturity model currently has level 1 through 5. The first level is initial, which means it's, testing is chaotic and undefined. Level 2 is managed, where testing has processes. It clearly separates everything from a bug perspective. There's some policies, some standards. Level 3 is defined, where again, you're having more organization within your testing and quality processes. There's trainings, there's a life cycle, there's peer reviews. You then have level 4, which is measured, and that measurement is product quality evaluation, additionally as advanced peer review. And then level 5 is optimization, where the organization is capable of continuously improving everything, and they have great defect prevention, quality control, and test process automation. So those are the level 5.
And where would you say most of our experience, where's the starting point for most people right now, I guess is the question.
I think I would probably say I've never seen a level 5. Let's just say that.
Eddie's going 2. That's what I was kind of guessing.
I thought he was using Roman numerals. And he was saying 5.
Saying 5.
Another part of our evaluation is setting expectations.
Sure.
If you're at a 1 and you tell us that you want to be at a 5, we will pause and we will say, okay, let's talk about what that definition means to you. And then we'll adjust accordingly. So that's part of.
If you're at a 1 and you think you want to be at a 5, you're really lying to yourself almost at that point, because even getting to a 2 is going to be kind of a struggle, right, for some folks.
Yeah, or they're at a 1 and they think they're at a 4.
Oh, okay.
So you get that too. It's like, well, we got good quality.
We put our bugs on Post-it notes and everything.
Right. Those 15 hot fixes we did last week, that's normal, right?
Yep. We documented them.
Yes.
So it's perfect.
So then, so you get on a project and there's you're developing a product and there's a life cycle to that product. It takes on a life of its own. What do you leave behind when your part is done? Is there a torch handed off, the baton to somebody on the ongoing product team? Is quality an ongoing thing, or is it we've got it? We're done with phase 1. We've got through our testing. It's all good. So our work here is done. We can ride off into the sunset, and things will be fine forever.
Yeah, and then you just drop quality and you never need it again, right?
Yeah.
I look at it like building a house. You got to pour a good foundation to build a sturdy house. So you get to that level where you got that good foundation. From there, you can build on that and build on that. And you may always be improving it. You may add on to your garage one day. You want to add on more stuff, which might be performance testing, or security testing, or more automation end-to-end with some tools like Selenium or something. So there's always that continuous improvement, like there is with other things in the processes, where you can always improve on those things, even if you're at a level 5.
I was going to ask, you brought up tools, Eddy. How has the current landscape affected tooling and affected how you do your job? I mean, things like containers and cloud and all these things that didn't really exist 12 years ago, 15 years ago. Does this make your job harder, easier, or is it just really we just adapt to what's available and work with it?
Yeah, the nice thing about doing quality type work is, for me, I'm not pigeonholed by one platform, one language, one system. If we have an app, we can test it. Most things are all now gotten to be browser-based, so a lot of the testing has pretty much evolved into browser-based type testing and automated testing on the development side, where they're doing their unit tests. They may do integration testing, and there's tools they can use like Postman, or they can write their own testing right from code to test those things. And then there's just a world of other tools that you can use to test different things from end to end, like Selenium. That's kind of the main tool that a lot of places use for any functional front-end type testing has been Selenium, I've seen. But there are some new ones. I just heard of a place that's using Cypress, which I'm going to look into, which I haven't seen before. So it's constantly changing, but for being able to do quality, I think we can adapt pretty easily to it and pretty quickly. And working with the developers, if you have a good working rapport with the developers, they get into helping you succeed, because that helps everyone succeed.
I'm guessing with the everything becoming more kind of client side, running in the browser, more web-based, security and performance have those kind of testing tools for those things have never been more important. Do you have like a standard tool set for where you can emulate, 1,000 users hitting the system at once? Or how do you do that? Because it's always been a challenge for me. And I've had projects where, we delivered and launched, and then all of a sudden things aren't loading right. It's like, well, yeah, because now we have 200 people using it instead of 5. So what do you use for that?
I've used some tools before that I haven't now used for a long time because IT takes care of a lot of that stuff for a lot of projects. But like Load Runner used to be one of them, where I think we had 2,000 virtual users, and you'd ramp up, start with 10, go to 100, go to 200, go to 500, go to 1,000, whatever, just to see how the performance gets on things, what the times are for responses. And then it gives you a pretty nice readout for, your times and when it started deteriorating, how much it did. So you can measure it by performance, or you can measure it by stress. When did it finally just say, I've had enough, I give up, I'm not going to do this anymore? So there's a lot of newer tools than that are out there that probably do a much better job now.
So do you kind of test as you go, like during the project as code is being written, to know that you're not heading way down a path that you're going to have to fix and make major changes to, like way down the road on the project?
Yeah, the tagline is test early, test often. And I think developers now have gotten really good, the ones I've been working with, about doing more testing early and writing their unit tests so that they have a lot of testing happening before it even gets sent to quality to do some testing. So, but I always try to poke in there and play around, see what's coming. It helps you to better write your test cases, put better steps, think of other scenarios so that you can have a really good test ready when it is put in your hands.
Yeah, another thing that's impacted quality a lot is speed to market, right? Business agility, to be able to get customer feedback, put it out there as soon as possible, and make adjustments accordingly. And so automation has been the biggest game changer for quality. And so one thing that we do is we look at test coverage for automation. And a lot of times we hear say 100% test coverage, 100% tested. One thing that we do is we really look at a risk-based test approach and what are the highest risks that we need to automate. And then any of the manual things we need to do as well. What are the highest risks that we need to manually test? So we look at everything from end to end, identify what needs to be automated, what can be manual, and then working with the engineers or developers on ensuring that their automated test scripts are updated with the appropriate test coverage.
Well, Jess, you mentioned, having test scripts and things like that. And if you're at a 1 and you say you need to automate your testing, it's not really like you're going to go right to automation, right? You can't just come in and start writing some Selenium test scripts and expect to have even know what your code coverage is at that point, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of analysis that needs to happen to automate anything. You need to actually look at your architecture and your code design to see whether or not it's going to be compatible with the automation. You need to look at all the different tools from an automation perspective, like which tools you want to use. You need to look at the schedule for how often you want to run your tests. You need to look at your data to see what data is in the lower environments in order for the test to run. You need reporting, so once a test runs, what's the report that's going to come out and what are you going to do after that? That's part of the startup phase that we've we help identify and document all of those questions. Because a lot of times when you say, oh, yep, I want automation,
Right.
most people think, oh, I need a tool. I need Selenium. No,
Right.
that's not the solution.
We have no test cases, but we need automation tomorrow.
Yeah, so we look at everything. We bring in best practices. We ensure there's feedback loops from QA to engineer to product owner. The product owner needs to understand the testing and the quality that's needed for all of this. The product owner needs to understand the architecture involved in all of this. So it's, from soup to nuts. That's what we look for.
And
It sounds. Go ahead, Eddy.
I was going to say 9 times out of 10, once we do this analysis, we do find that there is sometimes code that needs to be refactored in order for it to be tested.
Sure.
And a lot of times you'll see people who are just in that transition from moving to, let's say, Angular to React or something. And so that changes all the testing. And you don't just start at a 1 and get to a 3 in a couple sprints. You got to figure out multiple tools. Selenium doesn't do everything, so you may need several different tools. Well, then it's, proof of concept, training, learning curves, getting it to work into your process and your system, and then getting that set to where, hey, I think we got it now, and building off of it.
Mm-hmm.
The approach and the assessment, all that sounds really thorough and well thought out. How scalable is that? So budgets, come into play. So if there's a limited budget for quality that really can't change, how do you kind of dial it back or morph it into something that's going to be of value to the client, that's not going to break the bank?
What's happening right now is what I'm seeing across multiple industries is that they already have scaled back quality and putting the quality mindset on the engineer's shoulders. And so that is how companies or organizations have scaled quality. And what we have seen is that from a engineer perspective, they're not able to come up with all the different scenarios. And so then code gets pushed into production and then there's more hot fixes, or like how that manifests is through more production bugs or defects, or even in the staging environment. You're more in the staging environment because you're not able to test during the development phase. So I would say the way to, I don't know how to say this.
It sounds like if you scale it back, it's all stuff you still need. So you're just shifting the burden to somebody
else.
That's really
not their priority. That's not their passion. That's not what they want to do. And so if you can at least bring in one quality expert, and I'm not saying QA, I'm not saying somebody like a doer, a quality expert who has thought leadership and years of experience to help guide and influence that quality mindset from the beginning through the end, that will increase the quality of your product. I'm not kidding, like exponentially.
Well, I was going to ask about that too, is like the kind of cultural barriers you might see in an organization.
So
yeah, one thing that our quality experts are more of influencers versus coaches. So I don't know about you guys, but when I think of a coach, I think of someone off on the sideline, like yelling, saying, you're doing this, do this different, you got to do this now. Like a coach is someone who tells you what to do and how to do it. We don't have coaches as quality experts. We have influencers. And as an influencer, they are there to actually show you how to do it, They're there to understand you, what roadblocks you have, and they're there to actually be a part of you and partner with you on how to include quality into your code, into the product, into the process. So really it's a different way that our quality experts approach situations and the culture.
I like that differentiation between a coach and an influencer. That makes a lot of sense. And I think it kind of covers SDG to a bigger extent, right? We're not there as coaches. We're not on the sidelines. We're right next to you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And helping you out, showing you the good ways to do things and industry standard practices and things like that. And it really, I think, helps bring it across to people a lot more than having a coach yell at them from the sidelines.
Yep, exactly.
Well, just having a strong person, within a group will kind of raise, it'll raise everybody up.
Yeah.
And just, that knowledge is just on hand. Someone to go to right there without having to kind of struggle through it is a time saver, and it kind of stays you on point. Because then you're not trying to teach yourself. I think learning is personal. I prefer learning to training. That's kind of similar to the difference between coaching and kind of influencing. Is we're not going to just transform you against your will. We're not going to mold you like clay. We're going to be examples. We're going to support you. We're going to lead you down the right path and build quality people along the way.
Yep, absolutely.
Sounds fantastic.
One of the things I like to do when I'm on a project too is you kind of get to know the person that's going to be hardest to convince. And those are the people I kind of focus on to try to get to know better, try to understand what it is that they don't like about it or what they're thinking about it. Do some things to help them understand stuff better. Make sure that their work isn't going to be harder and they're not going to like it, and show benefits, and maybe even do some stuff to help them to gain their trust. And once you do that, you get that person on board, then the other ones kind of see, well, so-and-so's kind of okay with this, and it kind of helps get everybody else kind of supporting that whole quality mindset a little bit better.
We also have another quality expert who brings amazing food to get everyone on her side and gain their trust. So that's another way is to feed everybody.
You are all humans, and food is important.
She makes amazing Indian food, and so she'll bring.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Peter knows. So that's another way to gain trust.
So how hard is it to convince people you're not there to criticize? You're not there to just be the people that point out everything that's wrong with stuff, but you're there to actually help them and make things better. How hard is that?
Well, it's called integrity, right? When your actions and your words match, you can't say this is what I'm going to do. You have to actually show it and provide actions. So it takes a while. It takes a while for someone to really feel your integrity and feel that you are a partner with them. So that's what we do. We ensure our words and our actions match, and we partner with everybody. So that just comes with time.
Takes a while to develop that influence as an influencer, right? You can't influence somebody right away.
Yeah,
you can
you can't coach and be like, do it.
And the nice thing about it is some of us have been in as a developer, as a project manager, as a scrum master, as a BA, all these different roles that we have done. We pains of those roles. Yeah. We kind of I like to just jump in wherever I can and help. So it helps you gain trust of the team. And when you gain the trust of the team, things are a lot easier to accomplish. So I think that's one of our strengths, is that we do have a diversified experience with a lot of our people. And we've got great resources to go back to and ask in our company if we do have a question.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Eddie. You don't get one quality expert, you get, at least a minimum of 10, because there's quality experts not just within the quality team. There's quality experts in the Java area and the .NET area and the front end or the JavaScript area. There's quality experts across SDG organizations. So if there is any questions, you don't get one quality expert, you get multiple.
How do you guys, thinking ahead, how do you guys think your role is going to evolve in the next decade? Like, what do you think is going to change with what you do and how you integrate with teams?
That's a great question. What do you think, Eddy?
Well, I've seen it evolve so much in the years I've been in the business. From, you're pushed off like a pariah that, you do QA, why do we even have QA people? We don't need it. Our code's just fine. To, all they are is a bottleneck. We're never going to get this release. To, wow, you really caught something good there. Thanks. To just, hey, how can I test this before I give it to you? What kind of things are you seeing? So it's evolved to where I think developers understand more about quality and care more about their code not coming back with a bug than they used to. And I just see that getting better, and with more tools, I think things are just going to keep getting stronger and better.
Mm-hmm. I would say quality also is becoming more technical. In the past, it used to be manual testing, writing thousands of test cases and clicking out the whole test case and documentation. Now it's more technical, understanding the code, understanding the cloud platform. Chad, you asked about that earlier. Yes, cloud is a major initiative for SDG and our quality experts. We want them to be certified as business practitioners within AWS, and we want them to understand it so that they can also help test and have thought leadership around that. So it's just more technical than it has been in the past. And with new tools coming online and new cloud-based applications, it's going to be constantly evolving and learning those new tools.
And some of the problems that you're finding are changing too, right? Like, we may have solved SQL injection fairly well, but we haven't resolved whatever the next problems are coming down the road with, microservices cause certain issues that maybe didn't happen in huge monolithic applications in the old days, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then you have, the technology changes, and now with all the concerns around security and privacy, that's starting to impact functionality of systems, those third-party cookies and cross-domain calls and things like that. We're seeing that kind of thing. How concerning it? How good do you have to be at seeing into the future to kind of head those things off at the pass?
Mm-hmm. Really good, I guess. We're not psychics, so I can't predict the future, but
I was just going to ask you that. That's really weird.
Well, that's where, again, I think a lot of the companies have invested now into security areas in their IT departments, and the tools that they've got now have really gotten good, and so have the people that have been trained with security. So I think a lot of that comes a little bit more out of the quality type arena and into the IT. But it's good for us to ask those questions. Who does this? How have they been doing it? How has it been looking? Yep. Where they are at that level of their security as far as keeping the system safe and the data safe.
Well, and it's funny, you bring up a good point. Like, I'm guessing back when you started, security maybe not a great, huge issue, but still part of the quality process, right? If you can log in and get admin rights, that's not very quality, right? But to have that splinter off and get its own specialization and kind of take some of the tasks with it, but, and still have other parts in the whole quality process, I think it's changed quite a bit and probably will in the future too, right?
Yeah. Well, like you were saying earlier, Peter, that we pretty much solved probably most of the SQL injection type stuff. When I first started, when I'd say, are we doing any testing for SQL injection or anything? And they're like, what? And now it's, just second nature.
Right. Big changes.
I also want to bring up, Agile and the Agile mindset and the Scrum processes. That has also impacted quality. When do you actually test within the sprint? Do you test within the sprint? Do you test the next sprint? Do you save everything for 3 sprints and then have 1 sprint dedicated to testing? That has also changed how quality is being conducted right now. And so, what we do is, again, we ensure quality is within the sprint. So it's added to the acceptance criteria. So having that quality expert within the team during the refinement of the stories adds quality within the acceptance criteria, whether it be a unit, like a functional or a component that you're building, or whether it be like a end-to-end feature that you're building. Acceptance criteria has to have quality QA type tests in there. The definition of done also needs to ensure that there is a quality code base that you're trying to complete. You need to ensure that reporting is updated and sent to everybody when it comes to quality. Like how many bugs have been documented, how fast were they completed and refixed and retested and be shippable. So what we're doing is we're ensuring that quality is within also the process of Agile and software development. So we've been talking a lot about technical constraints, but there's also process constraints that what we have is we've included quality into the process and not just let it be forgotten.
Where does quality fall between good enough to get the job done and perfection?
Eddie's laughing.
That's a really good question because you're never going to get perfection. There's always going to be bugs, and some of them may lie in things that hardly ever, if ever, get used. So it's a return on investment. What I try to do is when I do analysis, I find out, like Jess was saying, the priorities. I call it a critical path. This part of the code has got to work all the time, every time, or we can't run our business. Those things is priority 1. You have to make sure that that works. So there's times when you're getting ready to do deployments that you only get so much time to test. That's where automation can really help a lot because it can do stuff quickly. If you don't have a lot of automation, you prioritize it. You go through those critical paths, do the highest priority testing, work on down the road to as far as you can get. And if it's time to deploy, you do a and say, this all looked good. We haven't seen any bugs in this stuff. I didn't test it. I don't foresee it to be a problem. We didn't do any work there. And the team makes a decision at that point. Mm-hmm. But every customer is different in their level of where they're at with those things. Some may do 2 or 3 sprints and then dedicate a week of just testing and looking at stuff. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on the client.
Mm-hmm. And that's the risk-based approach versus the 100% test coverage approach. So Kyle, a lot of people do want that perfection, 100% test coverage. And we know that you can spin and have lots of churn when it comes to that. So our quality experts help identify that risk, the highest risks, the critical path, provide the reporting and the information you need to make decisions on whether or not it can go into production.
probably not a lot of product owners that are willing to wait for their product to go live until it's 100% perfect, right? Well, we'll just wait 10 years.
When they see the price, when they see the price tag on it, they're usually pretty good about being, a little more flexible.
More risk-based at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think we could keep talking about this for hours. Mm-hmm. But I think, I think we got pretty far. I have a much better understanding of our quality.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one.
Go ahead, Eddy.
One thing about quality and the QA thing, a lot of places think they know what it is, but when you sit down and you assess things and talk about it, they just drop their jaws, open their eyes, and go, wow, I never realized there was that much to it. And so it is pretty eye-opening to a lot of places because they've just kind of had a preconceived idea of what quality was. And it's good that they finally get a better understanding of it.
Are you asked to kind of come in and meet with different groups of people and kind of tee up what quality is and kind of before the project even begins, kind of get everybody on the same page and see where they're at? Kind of where does that initial meeting stop and the assessment begin? Is that all part of the assessment, or is there kind of a educational piece that we do?
Well, I think the main thing is the first thing you want to do is gather that information. If you don't have the information to go on, it's pretty hard to let a client know what quality is going to be for them. And until you get to that point where you understand them, then you can start making, recommendations of where you think they're at, find out where they want to be, and find out how they want to get there and how long they want to take to. So it really starts with asking good questions.
And there's no cookie cutter answer. Like, it could be a 1-day assessment or questions or whatever you need, or it could be a 2-week. It's just really understanding what the definition is to be able to come up with a recommendation.
And finding out where they are in the model, right, and the maturity. Yeah. If you are at a 3, maybe you don't need a 3-week assessment, right? Because you've done a lot of work ahead of time. But
is it hard to break the news? I'm sorry, yeah, you're a 1. I hate to say it, but
if they don't know it, they should know it, and it's good to hear it from somebody outside rather than internal, right?
Yeah.
So Jess, if you could kind of wrap up, what we've been talking about. We've covered a lot of ground, and I don't know if we had to kind of reorganize it, summarize it, and package it up in a bow, how would you do that?
Yeah, that's what SDG does really well, is we package it in a pretty bow for you. So the SDG quality solution has 5 main areas that we wanted everyone to know about. One is that quality is everybody's responsibility. As you heard during this whole podcast, it's not just QA person anymore doing this. It's the engineers, it's the dev manager, it's the product owner, it's that quality expert who's there to help influence and guide the quality mindset. We also talked about quality from the start. Having quality be reactive and at the end, and having a 1-week time period just to quickly get through all 1,000 test cases, that's old school. Let's go to the new school where quality happens from the start, during the product ideation, during the refinement of the stories, during the sprint planning, within the acceptance criteria. We also talked a lot about 100% test coverage is not feasible. Risk-based approach. What is that critical path that you want to get tested, as well as a holistic automation framework. So you can't just have Selenium as one solution. What is your unit? What is your component? What is your functional or API testing from an automation perspective? The data that you need, the environment setup that you need, the running, the schedules, all of it holistically. Framework, not just a tool. As well as, Eddy said this so many times, and we have to keep on saying this is a customized approach. We have a framework, we have the tools, but we work with you to understand your definition of success and where we're going to meet you to make you successful. So that is definitely what we wanted to ensure, that everyone gets that communication across. So
and every once in a while we'll bring food too.
And we'll bring food.
Yeah, we'll bring cookies.
Well, I used to be a chef, so.
That's right. Eddie was a chef. He cooks well too.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for schooling us on quality. It's been great to have you here.
This was very fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, if anybody out there has any questions for us, you can drop us a line at thepodcasters@solutiondesign.com. Until next time, say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.
Goodbye.
Have a good day.